I don't think anyone even noticed us until maybe 2013, 14. I'm trekking, going hiking. Like, what's the worst that can happen? I fall, I break my leg. What is the outcome of that? Can you call? Is there some help available? I mean, if I know that outcome is covered for, I'll go ahead and do it. And after that, everyone started saying, dude, who's this guy now?
Hi everyone, so today we have with us the most famous person of India and the entrepreneur who has just killed it in the entrepreneurship space through the bootstrap business. Well, he's the founder of Zerodha, and not only that, he has his own website. I'm not talking about nithinkamath.me, but there's a website called as worldsmosthandsomebroker.com. And Abraham Lincoln once said, "There shall be the handsome one, the one from 4th class JP Nagar, where he shall liberate us from tyranny of non-handsome stockbrokers." So let us introduce our guest through some witty rhymes. The man who wants to take his body fat down to 15% and become thin. The man who will be up for a beer and not for a gin. The man who loves playing poker and will always win. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Mr. Kamath Nithin. So thank you so much, Nithin, for coming up. And it's an absolute honor for both of us, me and Ishan, to host you today.
Thanks for hosting me on this. And it's kind of very impressive. Whatever you guys are doing. So, congrats.
Thank you so much. So first things first, Nithin, we've read your story. We've also listened to a lot of your podcasts. You've covered your story from 2010 when you started building Zerodha. You've also stated about 1997 to 2010 when you were just about to begin your trading career, etc. What you want to understand is how was your entire childhood and what was the upbringing like for you as a person, and what are some values which you've imbibed from your parents which are helping you in your day-to-day life today?
Yeah, so my dad was in the bank. So he used to be a bank manager. So he kind of took us around. Every 3 or 4 years, we would move to a different city. And every time you move, you make new friends, so you learn new things. Maybe, somewhere, I don't know. I don't know if I can actually point my finger to it and say I learned something from it. But I think, just meeting new people is, I think, in a way, a good experience. I think for me, culturally, what was shocking was really, when we were transferred to North India, we went to this place called Karnal in Haryana. And it was just, I went from Hassan and Karnataka to Karnal in Haryana. So culturally, it was just almost exactly, like opposite of sorts. Now, my mom was a music teacher. And she's very entrepreneurial in the sense she's always, done something to make a buck. I mean, nothing big, but always she used to teach Veena, she used to teach Carnatic classical music, singing. I think when I was in my 11th standard, she started a flower shop, like make flower bouquets, etc. And I used to take those flowers and, place them in Wipro Infosys offices, So I think once I did my 12th, I used to do that, I used to drive a car, with all these flower bouquets in it. And so maybe, looking back, I think the entrepreneurial bug maybe was my mother. My mother comes from a very, what do you call it, conservative Brahmin family. So I don't know how she's like that. She's like the odd one out in the entire family. And my dad attempted a bunch of businesses, but I think he was at the wrong place at the wrong time of sorts, and so it didn't really work. I mean, he retired from his bank I think 8, 9 years back. So, but when dad was, I think is very stoic, to his approach to work and business, especially. And I think when I think about myself, I think I've kind of taken on some of the entrepreneurial skills of my mom, but I've probably also taken on some stoic skills from my dad. So I think I can see both of that in me. My mom is a lot more social and outgoing. I mean, if I had an option, I would stay in my house. I would never go out. So Nikhil has probably, my younger brother has taken on the more social angle of my mom as well. So, but one thing about both my parents is that they've been absolutely supportive of every single thing that I've done in my life. So I've done a lot of stupidity, and I started doing my stupidity quite early in life. But they've been completely supportive in whatever I did, because I didn't really do well in school or college. I mean, I barely managed to scrape through my 10th and my 12th. But then, I had this whole kid of, I started doing multi-level marketing back in, 97, 90, when I was really 17, 18 years old. And today people do it, but back in the late 90s, for someone at 17, 18 to go work into a business was not a common thing, especially in a city like Bangalore. But, my parents were very supportive, and they said that, you'll learn from all of this. Even when I started trading the markets, my dad actually gave me the first few thousand rupees, and and my mom opened her account because I was less than 18. So I was trading on my mom's account. So I think their support is one of the reasons I think I could get through the beginning few years, which was very tough. Especially because I come from a very non-business like background, and almost all my cousins, have gone to fancy schools through their engineering, etc. So I was really the first guy I think who who didn't. I mean, I set very low benchmarks, so Nikhil didn't have the pressure. Uh, but I was the first guy setting the low benchmark in our family. So while my all my relatives used to kind of like give me advice around all of this, my dad and mom were kind of quite open to the idea that you can go attempt whatever you want to do in life types.
Nithin, for a lot of people, it is the fear of failure that prevents them from starting something of their own. Did you also have a fear of failure when you started Zerodha? And if so, how did you tackle it?
The fear is actually important. I think the fear really gets you to focus more. If you're not fearful, I think you potentially can be very aggressive. That's how I was as a trader. When I started trading the markets when I was very young, I was trying to double my money every day. I used to essentially be super aggressive about making money quickly. And I learned my lesson blowing up a few times that this you need to be fearful, because if you're fearful, then you tend to do probably better decisions, right? Because the thing about business, trading, the markets, etc., is you're always one stupidity away from undoing all the good you've done, right? And you should be always constantly wary about that one stupidity that you can potentially do. So the reason I said I'm a little like stoic is because for me, maybe the late 2000 onwards, this philosophy of mine, which I kind of try to imbibe at work or even my personal life, is unless I can make peace with my worst case outcome, I won't do it. Right? In the sense, whatever I'm doing, it doesn't matter. If I'm trekking, going hiking, like what's the worst that can happen? I fall, I break my leg. What is the outcome of that? Can you call? Is there some help available? I mean, if I know that outcome is covered for, I'll go ahead and do it. Because what happens then is, it allows you to be rational, when shit hits the fan types. Otherwise, in most cases in life, typically when shit hits the fan, people panic, and then they end up doing more stupidity. So everyone's going to have a shit hitting the fan incident. Right? I mean, every person who's starting off, especially entrepreneurs. So when we started Zerodha, really the plan was that Nikhil, my younger brother, continues trading. I'll go attempt at building this. If it doesn't build, you get given like 1.5 years. I'll go back to trading. So in the sense, all potential bad outcomes were kind of factored in. But that attempt was still risky because we had begged, borrowed, etc. to start the business. So if it hadn't worked out, potentially it would have been in debt. And I was already in debt once before in my life, and it was extremely painful. It took me like 3-4 years to clear the debt, and but it felt like the right time to do this. It was very instinctive and very gut based, and yeah, I mean, if you don't take bets in life, I don't think there's a way to move forward. So it's I think the essence of being an entrepreneur, which is you need to get up every day saying, what's the next bet you can take. I mean, even if you start a business, every day the business can do something better, right? And everything that a business can do better is really a bet, right? Because you need to make some change in process. You need to probably put a new product. You need to probably hire more, right? So each of those decisions is a bet, right? And so bet taking is really at the core of being an entrepreneur.
Right. You mentioned a beautiful point about short-term money and quick money, and like the major problem which I've seen and interacted with a lot of Gen Zs, millennials, is that everyone is focusing on quick money, especially when it comes to investing or trading as well. So, what are your thoughts? Since you interact with a lot of Gen Zs and millennials as well during your stints at Trade Matter as well, you interact with a lot of startups. You would have met a lot of Gen Zs as well. How do you think that the Gen Zs are different in terms of their thought process in investing, money management, and overall as compared to like the senior generation?
See, firstly, Gen Z is a lot more evolved. Okay, I can't remember when I started. I was lucky to start young. Okay, I don't think I would. I would have seen folks like you, talking stuff like this at 20s. Right? Doesn't I think humankind is evolving very fast. The younger are sharper, better, whatever. So definitely today's Gen Z, etc., is much more sharper than like my times. Like my son's 7 years old, and I'm just amazed at everything that he knows at 7 years. I mean, I'm like, dude, what are you smoking types? I mean, so and, so it is. I think what has gone wrong, I think, on the planet is really social media, and I think social media is what has ruined people's expectation of life, right? So you see what you see on social media is what you want in your personal life, and if someone's wearing a fancy watch, fancy car, whatever, right? I mean, you want it, and you want it now, right? As in, right? Because you want to probably go post that on social media, right? So this whole reason for making quick money is really a social status, right? As in,
Right.
everyone's trying to prove a social status that I also have it, and that is a problem. I mean, there's nothing wrong with wanting to make money and wanting to make it quickly, but it has to be for the right reason, right? I think the problem today is I mean, it's not just Gen Z. I mean, it's even little older folks as well. Right? I know so many of my friends who want to go on holidays. I mean, I've gone on holidays with friends where they're just clicking photos. I'm like, dude, we are here to enjoy the holiday, right? It's not about clicking photos and putting on social media. As in, why are you bothered about that? So I think the last 10, 15 years, social media has kind of ruined, I think the planet quite a bit. Now think about, once you want to make quick money, firstly, there's nothing like quick money. Right? As in, today, if you're talking to me, there is 25 years behind this. Right? I
Right.
started at 17. Today I'm 42, and I mean, and to be very honest, until like 3, 4 years back, Zerodha was not, no, it's not like super special in terms of the money outcome. Right, the money outcome, we had this whole hockey curve kind of growth from 2018, 19 onwards, where suddenly money happened. But until then, there wasn't really any money. Now, if someone looks at me and says, you know what, I want to be this rich in like 3 years or 4 years or 2 years, I mean, it's impossible. As in, and the problem is if you start chasing money, you kind of misconfigure all your other life goals of sorts. Right? Money is always an outcome. I don't think there is nothing called chasing money. Like, even within Zerodha, not once from the day we've started the business, we have ever set a revenue target or a sales target or whatever. Right? We've said that every day you get up and you do something better, whatever money has to happen, it will come. Right? The problem with setting money goals is that as soon as you set money goal, you will do whatever it's required to get to that money goal. Right? And in the process, compromise on a lot of other things. Like, for example, if say, last year our revenues was X, and say this year I want to get to X plus, say, 30%. Right? So now I know that I either need to add more customers or I need to figure a way to generate more revenue from existing customers. Now, if you start pushing customers to generate more revenue, you are most likely going to do what is not right for them. Right? If you do what is not right for them, the product goes down. If the product goes down, you have to start spending on marketing and advertising to get more users. And it just become like this, this circle where you would not even enjoy running a business like that as a founder. Right? So yeah, so personally, I think trading or running a business is almost very similar. I keep talking about this, saying Zerodha is really the biggest trade of my life, and because the thing about trading in business or anything in life, it's about trading is essentially doing what gives you maximum return for your time, right? With the best risk to reward of sorts, and everyone should do what that is. I mean, if you are a musician, I don't think you should sit and trade the markets. If you're good at sports, you should maybe because your risk to reward of doing well in life is where you are more skilled at, right? You can't just cut copy. When people ask me, then how did Zerodha happen? Can I build like this? There is no cut copy paste solution. Everything works in context. If I had to start Zerodha today, I don't think the way we did it in the last 10 years would work today, right? I mean, I would have to figure another way to do it because some of the things that we did work because of the context of that time. Yeah. So the thing about money is that I think the most important thing everyone has to remember, and I think it's got to do not just with business trading, it's even professional life. Right? It's like if you quickly keep jumping jobs just to make more money, at some point of time you would not have learned anything well in any business, right? As in, one of the reasons I think for the success of Zerodha has been that we've been able to keep people together, right? How money compounds with time, people's skills also compound with time, right? But for people's skill to compound with time, you have to be at it at something for a while. You can't keep switching 6 months, 1 year, and expect to compound in terms of skills, etc.
Nithin, as Gen Z and the new investors from 2020s now lured towards more returns, higher profits, from crypto, penny stocks, small caps. What do you think is the future like, and what is a lesson that needs to be learned over here?
See, the thing is, we are somewhere at the top of a bull market. Right? I mean, I don't know, now is the top, or we're gonna hit the top in, like, say, 10% away or wherever. And stock markets are very cyclical, right? I mean, back in 2007, I remember everyone saying that India is going to go to moon, and our index are going to be like 5x of whatever it is. And in 1 year, we were at 1/5 of it, right? As in 1/5 of what index was at, right? So I think everyone needs to understand that while it seems like it's easy to make money trading the markets, I personally, I mean, I keep saying about this is that trading, making money from the stock market is probably the toughest way to make money. Make easy money in life. It seems easy. The only thing easy about trading is that you can open an account instantly, and you can put money and you can start trading, right? Whereas in a business, you have to do like X number of things, right, to be able to start a business. So that easy way to get started is what attracts a lot of people to come, trade in the markets. Now the problem with trading is that if you make money the wrong way, you will never keep it. And there's this, when I was a sub broker of Reliance Money, we had a customer who, one day, just before the elections in 2009, he put all the money and bought this deep out of the money call options. It was 2 lakh rupees, 1.5, 2 lakh rupees became like 2.5 crores, right? Overnight, right? Because, the election results came and the stock market opened up 20%. And then the next day it opened another 20% up, and without him doing anything, it whatever. Over the next 1.5, 2 years, that person lost 2.5 crores plus another 5-10 lakh rupees, right? Because he made money the wrong way, right? The thing about trading is that I even say sometimes that making money buying lottery tickets is easier than trading the markets because when you hit a lottery and say you make 1 crore rupees, you will not buy 1 crore rupees worth of lotteries, right? I mean, you can probably use that crore rupees to buy a car, buy whatever. But in the stock markets, when you hit the lottery and say you make 1 crore rupees, you'll bring the entire crore rupees back to trade the markets again, right? And if you have done it the wrong way, you will eventually give it up, right? So I think for everyone trading, it doesn't matter Gen Z or even 60-year-olds. I think it's about having like this 5 or 10 very basic rules of trading, to follow that, in terms of money management, in terms of risk management, in terms of, like covering your stupidity, etc. So, when I used to trade, one of the ways I used to cover for, I knew that I would one day get up and do some stupidity, and the way I used to protect myself was only keep money, on certain portion of money in my trading account, right? And the rest of the money I used to keep it in like a bank account where I didn't have online access, right? So, because I knew that, on one day when I do stupidity and if I blow it all, I want to blow it all only to a certain extent of my, capital of sorts. So, I mean, not everyone will be like me, but everyone, the chances of everyone doing stupidity is quite high, especially when you're exposed to fear and greed almost every minute when you're in the markets, right? So it's like being on a roller coaster, like 6-7 hours a day, right? So it's a very hard job. I think follow the process and don't get too aggressive. I think one other thing about trading that I would want to share, I guess, is about bet sizing, right? I think this is a very important. I think the most important aspect of building a business or trading the markets, right? Which is you cannot take the same bet size every single time, right? 99% of your bets should be as minimum as possible, right? Because most of the bets are going to go wrong, which means every time you're losing small amounts of money. But every once in a while, you get into a bet, instinctively you will know that this is something where my odds are higher, and that's when you up the bet size, right? Because if you don't up the bet size, you'll not ever have phenomenal outcomes in your life, right? So like even in Zerodha, for example, when you started Zerodha, I mean, putting 1.5 crore rupees together to start this was a really, really large risk, but instinctively it felt it's the right time to do it. And how do you build on that instinct? I think it's about just surviving long enough to build the instinct, right? Because you can't build instincts on day one, right? Eventually, I think if you want to, you probably will speak to a lot of entrepreneurs, and you'll realize that across all the entrepreneurs, the decisions that worked out were really the gut-based, instinctive ones,
Right.
and not something that you came through a spreadsheet or Excel and where you had 100 people who consensually said we should do this. Because everyone said in 2010, Nithin, it's stupid to start a broking business, right? So I think bet sizing, whatever, if you're trading or, being an entrepreneur is super important.
How do you improve the process of bet sizing and let's say like that gut feeling which is there for an entrepreneur? How is it possible to just improve that process or like just have that gut key, okay, if this is going to work out, I should definitely take a bet in this space?
So this again, before you go chopping wood, you sharpen your axe, right? I think one of the biggest reason for the success of Zerodha, I mean, apart from everything else, is the fact that I had maybe 12, 13 years of experience in this industry. It was not something I thought of in a coffee shop and suddenly started building it, right? And then today, I think one of the mistakes is people think that they can sit in a coffee shop, come up with an idea, and just go build some product in some random industry where they have no clue of the dynamics of that industry. The last 4-5 years were outliers, right? It was fueled by easy money. It was every VC was there out there trying to put money, and so if you measured outcome of businesses over the last 4-5 years in terms of valuations, it seems like a lot of entrepreneurs have done well. But if you measure by building resilient, sustainable businesses, nothing. As in, how many profitable businesses out there? Very few. And how many people even have a road to profitability? It's very few, right? So I think we all of us we tend to have recency bias. So we always look at the nearest whatever happened to the world and think that this is how it will be. But this was exception. The last 4-5 years were exception. Interest rates are going up. Funding become tight, and it'll be very hard for people to raise money in the future. So I think before anyone starts a business, I think it's very important to go spend some time in that industry, right? Do some learning, and then which also means that when you spend some time in the industry, you get that instinctive feel for certain things, right? Which is very hard to get if not. Right, like in the journey of Zerodha, one of those things, which people don't. One of the reasons for success is also because I think we had almost like a regulatory foresight. Because in a regulated business, right, where regulations are changing very dynamically, you cannot work. You cannot build a business thinking the regulation that exists today is going to be the regulation in 3 years from now, right? You should have a foresight to say, how can potentially regulation change in 3 years. And can you kind of build the business towards what the regulations could be in the next 3 years, right? Without being in the gray areas, etc. Right? And now, how do you get the regulatory foresight? You should have some experience again, right? I think we've done that, right? Because every time in the last 10, 12 years, regulations have changed, and they've changed drastically. We were better prepared, and we were right there at the right place, and and we've been able to capitalize on that opportunity because our competition took time to catch up to the new regulations, right? I mean, the only way I think this whole instinctive, etc. Some people are, I mean, you can be super like you can be that 1 in a billion guy, who instinctively feels for every kind of business you are in. But other people, I mean, most of us need to I think spend some time and effort in a particular industry, understand the nuances before you can start feeling instinctively. And once you start feeling instinctively, then you can also start doing the bet sizing better, right? Because without that, without any input, it's very hard to bet size. Like for if you're taking say I have say 1 lakh rupees and every trade I'm taking 1,000 rupees, right? But I know the next trade I need to take 5,000 rupees, right? But how do you know if it has to be 5,000 rupees, right? You need to you need to have some input from what is what is the reason for taking a certain trade. So.
Nithin, when you entered in the brokerage space, did you face any resistance from the existing players who were the giants in this space because you were trying to disrupt this space?
See, the thing is, this whole disrupt is a overused word. Okay? I mean, I don't see the thing, to be very honest. When I started the business, I thought if we got to 100,000 customers, we have arrived in life. Now, I mean, like my best case outcome was that, right? And there was no, even today, I mean, I'm not trying to disrupt anyone. I'm just trying to build my business, and I understand that as a business, you need to have moats that can be, that will protect you from competition, right? As in this chasing disruption, etc. I think is just an overused term because you don't know what will disrupt something, right? Because if someone knows what will disrupt something, someone would have already done it.
Yeah.
Right. So this is essentially a bet you're taking that what you're doing can potentially change the dynamics steps. So when we started in 2010, really it was the worst year for brokerage as an industry, because coming back on the global financial crisis of 2008, brokers had lost a lot of money. And brokers were diversifying. I mean, a lot of Indian brokers were trying to do real estate, wealth management, and etc. And we were like a small shop. I mean, we were like, it started with 4 people in JP Nagar and Banagata Road. This is like people, I think, a lot of brokers thought, anyone outside Bombay can't even be a broker, So, right. So it wasn't, I don't think anyone even noticed us until maybe 2013, 14, right? Because I think the first 3-4 years, I think people thought, it makes no sense, this pricing, how does it even add up, etc. And I myself was questioning if that pricing model will ever work, right? Because I never thought that, see, in a very low cost discounted pricing model, you need economies of scale to kick in. And for that to kick in, you need to have sufficient number of customers, right? And how would I know in 2010 that India will have 3 crore customers in say 10 years from now, right? You know that India is growing, but you don't know how will India get to these customers by when, etc. So there was not really any resistance, but around 2012-13 when it started to become slightly popular, because in the business of money, credibility is very hard to get. So when you say low cost, suddenly people question, will you run away with my money, right? And we are not a transactional platform in the sense we're not a platform where you come buy something and go away and it's over, right? Once you come, you buy, stocks lie with us. So in a way, it's a long-term relationship. It's almost like a marriage, right? So and in such a relationship, the user questions the credibility of the platform, right? And that's why small banks find it so hard to build relationships, right? I mean, HDFC and SBI can keep growing at whatever pace, but a new small bank finds it really hard to raise money and deposits, etc. So I think a lot of these bigger players also thought that we'll never be able to get over the credibility threshold where people start realizing that this is a credible organization and we can park some funds. I think that the tipping point in all of this was really in 2016 when Aadhaar for all customer onboarding started.
Right.
Because until then all the account opening was a physical form, right? So people who had more branches, more number of managers were opening more number of accounts, right? So that was really the way to grow broking business, exactly like a bank, right? As in, the reason HDFC Bank or SBI has so many accounts is because they have more branches and they have more relationship managers.
Right.
And broking was very similar. So, but that moat got disrupted, right? Because the traditional brokers, their moat was, I have 1,000 branches and 5,000 employees. And that got disrupted as soon as online onboarding started, right? And I think we were at the right place, right time, with the right product, right? Because in 2016 when it happened, by then we had our own in-house app, we had our education platform, we had built a little bit of credibility. So, all the 3 came together and this and after that everyone started saying, dude, who's this guy? Who's the right
Right.
person?